Hello, Monetization Nation. Most of the time, we have to lose money before we can make a profit in our businesses. In today's episode, we're going to discuss how we can build a successful business by focusing on quality before we focus on monetization. Tectonic shifts are constantly transforming the earth and business, causing destruction and huge growth opportunities. I'm Nathan William, the host of Monetization Nation, where we learn how to leverage business tectonic shifts to transform monetization. Evan is a world-renowned life and business strategist with a mastery in building dominant, sustainable, and purpose-driven lives and businesses. Evan is the founder and chief evangelist for the Obsessed Academy. Evan helps others build a life that they can be obsessed about through private events, hosting thousands of world changers at his Obsessed conference, and impacting lives on his Obsessed podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today, Evan.
Absolutely, Nathan. Thank you for having me. Truly, I've enjoyed our conversation so far. Enjoyed digging into the meat of everything you've offered your audience, which is it's pretty expansive, by the way. Kudos, because it's all you have to do is dig into a little bit of social media to see the impact that you've been having. So, bottom line, I'm happy to be here, my friend. Thank you for having me, and I know we're going to share a really good conversation.
Yeah, thanks for your kind words, and thanks for joining us today. Mm-hmm. Okay, can you start off by just telling us something that you are super passionate about?
That's a very expansive and somewhat loaded question in the best way. Ultimately, I guess the core of everything that I do comes down to this ideology that individuals deserve to be inspired, fascinated, and motivated by where they live, where they work, who they live and work with, and how they live and work. I believe that we're here and we're put here to do more than just work at a job we hate for a boss we hate, doing things we hate, and then die. And so while it's come in different forms and fashions and different, I guess the word might be manifestations of what that ideology looks like, be it business, be it some creative endeavors. The bottom line is I'm really passionate about seeing other people become successful and lead with impact in their own lives, not in some existential like daisies and unicorns type, oh, we can all be the best version of ourselves, but in reality of people have so much potential in them to do incredible things, impact the world around them, make money around what they're doing. Not everybody has to be begging on a corner and, the starving artist. Some people, there's no shame in success, but doing it the right way. And there's that fine middle ground that I believe a lot of people are skirting around. And I'm saying I want to fall in that trench and walk along that path with you. So in an existential standpoint, that's what I'm passionate about. It's realized through endeavors and work and caring deeply about people and being present as best I can. But that's what I'm passionate about.
So focusing on the things that matter most and doing it in a way that you can be proud of.
Very much so.
All right. Could you share with us your story, your journey to become this amazing CEO that you are?
A lot of grace from God and a little bit of hard work, but I come from a family of entrepreneurs. So people that have built, scaled businesses in the past. And so when I was young, growing up, the mindset was not what type of job do I get in order to earn? It was what business do I start? What service do I provide in order to be a provider? And so in my young years, I had all these little hustles and just whether it was selling ice cream or, candy on the playground all the way to electronics in high school. And then I had a landscape business. And when I was in college, I jumped into real estate and had an opportunity to build that into what became the top 1% or within that top 1% of professionals in the state of Texas, and made an exit and now have endeavors in enterprise level technology and biomedical engineering and real estate, of course, and consulting. And so, we spend our time in a lot of really unique places, meeting all sorts of great people, but truly the life that we have right now and how we're living today is really just the full realization of that entrepreneurial spirit that was instilled in me at a young age. And so it's cool to be able to live it out, much like you're doing, right? With your content, creating an environment that attracts great people. But it began at a young age, Nathan. Honestly, it was pretty funny. You know how they say that the future version of yourself is usually realized quite young. For us, that rang true. So I guess I can thank my parents for that.
Yeah, That's really interesting that you grew up in an entrepreneurial household. How did that help you, other than helping you see the vision of your life goal was not to get a stable job from somebody. Your
Mm,
life goal was to build the venture, right? That would
yeah.
give you the
Yeah.
stability. How else did it impact you having entrepreneurs for parents?
Well, that's a good question too, because realistically, I remember watching. For context, my mother was second in her class, Texas A&M University, English major, incredibly well educated. My father graduated Baylor, lots of degrees. He is the one that was really leading the charge on the entrepreneurial venture.
Okay.
And so seeing him, so I'm going to reference them independently, but I'm blessed to have a family that's together, which was definitely a blessing. Um, so my father, watching him build and labor and go through those stages, because he started his company when my brother and I were younger, so we got to see that transition of seeing something start at a table and then grow and then grow and then grow, and now he's got a quite a robust office space, and then watching my mother play that role in her expertise of continuing to develop that infrastructure alongside him. The biggest impact was really twofold. First of all, it allowed me to recognize a healthy harmony in a relationship that's possible through people that are communicating well, that have systems and structures of accountability in their life to ensure that issues in one area don't affect another. So I referenced the stable relationship because I think that is a blessing. And a lot of people, they come from the struggle. I didn't. I didn't. My family was middle class. My parents were together. Now, they weren't wealthy. I wasn't going to school in a Rolls Royce, but we had food and we had shelter and we had that. And the reason that I referenced that is because that allowed me to, at a young age, identify what healthy relationships looked like. And then as I was growing, a healthy relationship with my spouse, now my amazing wife, Brittany, a healthy relationship with our employees, with business partners. Some were healthy, some weren't, but understanding the nuances of each. And then watching how my father moved as he was building, and I was able to emulate some of those things. So, early on, you get coaches, you get mentors, you get help. And it was very helpful to be able to think, okay, I remember seeing this. And so therefore I should adopt some of those memories and see how they play out in real life. And it worked.
I love it. What is the biggest success or biggest home run that you've hit in your career so far?
Well, God willing, we're about to hit another one that'll blow this last one out of the water. But uh, realistically, I think my real estate company so far was probably one of the biggest. That by the time when I had started, I had no beard and I was much younger and I was not taken seriously and I had no business. So why should I be taken seriously? But scaling that into what became at the time, multi 8 figures in sales. And so real estate business is evaluated through the sales in an, annual year. And so to start from not being able to make an $800 a month apartment payment to turn into 30, 35, $40 million worth of business was exciting. And by that time I was 25, 26. And so that was a really exciting step to be able to make those maneuvers at a younger age, learn a lot before a whole lot of I guess further, what's the word, risk, whatever it would be. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. And so, or I was towards the tail end of it, but so
You weren't leveraged yet. You're
I could
leveraged
be,
now.
yeah, I could be dangerous. And so that was a big win. But in reality, I'm glad that the conversation isn't completely centered around that because um, we all know people like this that get to be 70, 80, 90 years old. And they're always talking about that one thing they did when they were young.
Yeah.
And that was really cool. And I'm super excited about that. And it felt cool to get those accolades and those plaques. I haven't been in real estate in years. And so now that we have an opportunity to build other opportunities and to get into other businesses and to see potential for other wins, that's really what I'm excited about. So yeah, that was fun. And that was a big play. And there was an opportunity there to serve a lot of great families. But more than anything, that gave us the experience. And I say us, I'm really talking about my wife and I, because she run things, she and I run things very tightly together. Gave us an opportunity to be well positioned for learning from our experiences, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then turning that into an even more prosperous opportunity in the future. So that was exciting in the past, but more importantly, I'm excited for what's ahead.
Okay, what is your best monetization secret or strategy?
Mm. Okay. Okay. So this is going to sound way backwards. So if you're listening, please don't pause in the middle of the statement or you're going to think I'm freaking crazy. Don't actually. That's literally it. Don't monetize.
Don't focus on monetization.
Don't focus on monetization, because I'm not saying don't be profitable. I'm not saying don't focus on sales or money, but I'm speaking specifically to those that are looking at building as much profit as possible in the early stages. Focus on quality first and monetization second. And after your product becomes the market standard, switch. So I'll give you an example here. We'll take what we do, the Obsess Conference. Obsess Conference is not a profitable event. I'm transparent about that. Grant Cardone can go make 15, 20, 30, 40, $80 million on his conferences. That's cool. We're going to be bigger than Cardone's event. Why? Because I said, okay, what do I not like about other events? I don't like being pitched to from stage. I don't like motivation and not tactical. I don't like not being in the room with similar quality people. People have a very high moral and ethical quality. So what are we going to do? We mapped out a 10-year plan for that event to lose money every single year, have an incredible event only focused on the quality of experience and the quality of business gain. And we have an 85% audience retention rate right now because of the quality. Now the event gets bigger. So in theory, if we brought it down smaller, then it could be very, very profitable. But the reason I'm saying that is the long-term game plan for that experience is not how much money can I squeeze from Nathan right now. No, the long-term game plan is, if you're in the business of positively impacting lives and businesses, then the best data are the lives and the businesses that have grown significantly because of your relationship together. So if John Doe comes to the event and he loves it on year one, and I'm not trying to squeeze the little in year one, and his business grows and he's back in year 2 and then year 5 and then year 8 and then year 10, that is a better long-term strategy for that relationship. If you have that relationship with the hundreds and eventually thousands and tens of thousands of people that attend, that is a better, in my opinion, long-term strategy of monetization than on year one when we're nobody and we can barely squeak tickets out for $200. How can I get every dollar from that, as opposed to I don't have to second guess charging $20,000 for a ticket because we're able to do this, this, and this. And I'm kind of pulling numbers out of thin air, but you see what I'm getting at, which is you focus on the quality first and the monetization second. It's a longer term strategy, but it'll be worth more in the long run.
Okay, let me restate that. So what you're saying is, don't focus on monetization first. Focus on quality, or another word I use for that is value, right? Mm-hmm. Provide as much value as you can to your target audience, your customers. Mm-hmm. And build that relationship and build that credibility. And your point is that is the strategy for achieving the greatest lifetime value out of those customers.
Absolutely, it is. Absolutely. It's just the first question is, are you here for the short run or the long run? It's not a loaded statement, right? Some companies are really, really good. You know, remember the fidget spinners? That was a 9-month play. I mean, realistically, that was a 9-month play. Get in, patent that, get out. Actually, as a funny side note, the group that had developed that fidget spinner, you remember that way back in, sure. I don't remember the year. They didn't patent it, so whoops. But that was a short-term play. But most businesses are long-term plays, right? The ending goal of a business is just to either make a life for yourself and know that you'll never be market dominant, and eventually move into a SPAC and IPO on your own, or sell to a larger competitor. That's really that's or fail technically, but I just don't think that one's an option. Those are the big options and the big play here. So if you're getting into business and you're thinking, okay, I want a long-term play, my question is, how can you minimize all of your profit right now without losing profitability, without losing quality? How can you minimize profit right now without losing scalability, without losing actual profitability? Don't necessarily run at a loss. I believe everyone should be profitable, but how do you just keep that razor thin and then pour the rest of it back into your company for the 3, the 5, the 8, the 12 years, to the point to where now the company is worth significantly more? See, that's how we have hockey stick business. You kind of skirt along the bottom and then you go whoop straight up. For those that are just listening, my little whoop there was the top of the hockey sticks. But then you shoot up. But most companies say, okay, I have this idea. I want to earn as much as possible right now, when you have no validity, no history, and a small customer base. So what you're doing is you're playing in the small, when in reality you're negating your opportunity to play in the big leagues 8 to 10 years down the road potentially.
And if you look at some of the biggest and fastest growing companies of our business careers, the Googles and the Amazons, they followed that model, right?
Mm-hmm.
Google did not focus on monetizing for years, and they built reach. Amazon, the same thing. They operated for so long without making a profit and just reinvesting back in and trying to provide the highest quality, greatest value service they could. And as a result, those are both in positions where they have tremendous value.
Well, most people are trying to be fancy, right? I mean, look, beginning of the show, we're having a conversation. We're, digging into the meat of just everything in your green room. And most people are just trying to be fancy, and they want these really ornate, plaques and cars and things. I don't want that. My mission is I want to live in presence with the people that I care about. I want to walk in love with others. And I want to build really incredible market dominant multi-billion dollar companies. That's what I care about. I don't care about people knowing that I am Evan, name up in lights. I don't care about that, which sounds interesting because you think, oh, well, the conference and you do a lot of speaking and stages, whatnot. Those are distribution models achieving that mission, not because my name is up in lights. The reason why that's important is because most people, when they start businesses because they have an idea that feeds their ego, not because they have this idea and they are willing to stand backstage. Now, this is not everyone, but this is a lot of people. When you are trying to be front and center, I'm successful and I have this business and I have this and this is me and me. What happens is you take so much time, energy, and resources away from the business to put the highlight on you so you can feel good that you never build good. What I'm saying is go behind the scenes. Just take a step back. And for once, look around and say, if I can keep my head down and play quietly for 5 to 8 years, if I'm okay walking into a room and not having people know who I am for 5 to 8 to 10 years, that's how the name is going to be built during that time period. No one knew Arnold Schwarzenegger until he kept his head down and built literally himself and his body and his career. And now people can pronounce his crazy last name all over the world. And it's a similar methodology for as you're listening, what you're building. Not saying that you have an ego problem. Gosh, I don't know you as a listener, but what I am saying is maybe look in the mirror and see, am I doing this for me and overcompensating for an insecurity, or am I doing this because this is a mission, a distribution method for achieving some type of greater mission? That's really the question we need to be asking ourselves.
I love it. Thank you so much. On the show, we obviously talk about monetization a lot. Mm-hmm. And the ways to achieve that. The primary vehicle we teach to help people achieve huge monetization growth is a concept called leveraging tectonic shifts. So think about in the world of geology, how you have two tectonic plates, and when they move against each other, you can have massive destruction like earthquakes or volcanic eruptions, or you can have massive growth like mountain formation. And the same thing happens in business, right? We're constantly being disrupted. We're constantly having to transform. And through our careers, we've seen this, right? The shift from bricks and mortar to internet, or the shift from yellow pages to search engines, or the shift from desktop computers to smartphones, right?
That's right. That's right.
So what do you think are some of the most important tectonic shifts that we're going through today?
That's a good question. And actually, it's a straightforward answer. Like everything for the last 25 years, technology. But more importantly, I think the consumer is looking for more technology solutions from the brands that they're working with. And I know that's high level, but I'll get granular here. What I'm talking about is, remember, Nathan, back in early 2000s when malls were dying all over the nation, right? Malls are dying. Millennials don't want to shop at malls. Well, yeah, they're gross. Malls are dying, right? But what happened is the thought process was everyone's going online, and that didn't happen. What happened was online took a lot of market share, but then popped up these unique developments with boutique experiences, and every store was different, and craft coffee and unique food, where the entire experience became a destination and not just a hub of convenience, right? You probably remember all that craziness. Same thing in technology. So we went through this season where we had these like one-all solutions and these huge Microsoft suites, but now the interesting thing that happened, much because of the mobilization of technology, what you referenced, but the consumer wants unique, streamlined, beautiful experiences that connect them directly with the brand, right? So if I'm even shopping online, the first thing I'll do is I'll see if that brand, that website has an app. I'd rather engage with them in that environment. But it's the same thing in our businesses. Consumers are going to start demanding that you are able to connect with them in a technological way, regardless of if you're a technology business or not, because that's how they're used to communicating with the brands that they love. So I think the biggest shift we're seeing right now is going to be this outpouring of relevant to that brand, but not maybe market dominant relevant softwares that will allow consumers to connect directly with those brands, and kind of in a similar way that we saw with the mall real estate on this technological landscape with that real estate, create these little boutique experiences where you have apps that maybe do one or two things, but they do them beautifully. Or maybe they're apps that they only do one thing for one brand, but they do it beautifully, much in the way that we've seen with, I don't know, have you have any experience with the Cash App?
I haven't used the Cash App. Tell me about it.
So it's by Square, which was a credit card processor, and I'm sure you're probably familiar with Square.
Yes.
But the Cash App is interesting because it's been around for 15 years, or 10 years or whatever it is. I don't exactly know, but it's been around for quite a while, since the early days of iPhone. And it is an app that does one thing and one thing only: send money, accept money that's been sent. That's it. You have a keyboard, you type in the money, and here you're sending it to. That's it. Not like Vimeo where you can see the history and the friends and all that cute. No. It is you send money and you receive money. That's it. And it is consistently one of the most popular apps in the financial side of the App Store. And so when I say boutique and simple, I'm saying entire application infrastructure for one component. I think that shift is what we're going to see, that boutique experience, especially coming out of COVID over the next 5 and especially 10 years.
I love it. You wrote an article about how to charge what you're worth without seeming like a jerk. Can you talk with us a little bit about that? Give us some advice on how.
I mean, it's monetization nation. We got to talk a little bit about charging what you're worth, right? Look, some people compete on price and some compete on quality. Stop trying to be the cheapest. I mean, there's no better way to phrase it. Some compete on price, some compete on quality. If you compete on price, you're going to constantly be shopped out to the lowest bidder. If you compete on quality, then you'll never have to justify your price. That's it. And that goes back to what we touched on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Say what you're saying.
Oh, I was saying that goes back to what we touched on earlier about the long-term play with developing the quality in the front end, if that makes sense.
So when we charge more, several things happen, right? We attract a different type of a customer that probably customer we're going to prefer working for anyway. Mm-hmm. We also, because we charge more, we're allowed to provide a higher quality service.
Absolutely.
We can afford to reinvest in better customer service and getting more team members and paying for higher quality team members so that we can provide better service to our customers. It just becomes this what's the opposite of a vicious cycle? It's an ascending spiral. When we charge well, we're able to provide better quality service, and it's just not worth it to be in the game of being the low cost provider. Maybe unless you're Walmart and you have some kind of distribution vehicle that you can afford, that your cost structure allows you to do things cheaper. But if you don't have that, it really does not make sense to.
Well, and that statement, yes, and you are correct. I wanted to affirm that. But that statement, some compete on quality, some compete on price. My response was, I'm not trying to be the cheapest, but some companies are. Amazon came out with their, Happy Belly or Good Belly brand. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it is their white labeled grocery brand. So your carrots and your lettuce and your meats and your breads. And just like every other store, you walk into a grocery store and they have their own brand of bread or milk or whatever. But the interesting thing is when I saw that, I thought that's kind of interesting. And I put it against more common brands that we're used to buying. I want to look at that brand versus the Fairlife milk. And I want to look at this brand of water. And every single time it had undercut every single brand in the Amazon store when it was their own brand. They are trying to be the cheapest and they're winning on that model because they have the infrastructure to be able to take 3 cents off of this one to undercut the competition on a much larger scale. And well, frankly, Amazon is a distribution and logistics company, not a product company. So that helps too. So that wasn't a loaded statement, because if you think, well, I am trying to be the cheapest, good, sell to the masses, live with the classes, be the cheapest, but be the biggest and the cheapest, not the smallest and the cheapest. That's called going out of business. If you believe that quality is important, then charge what you're worth and then prove that you're worth what you've charged through the experience with the customer. If I tell you, hey, in order for us to do this thing, this contract is $20,000, or I want to do, Christmas lights in your house and we're 10 times more expensive than other people, you have to prove why you're charging that, or the market's going to reject you. So it's not be full of it. It is, if you are in fact worth that, then accept that as a charge. And if you want to do something different, then accept that too. But you have to look at both. You have to look at both analytics.
Thank you so much, Evan, for sharing your stories and insights with us today. Here's some of my key takeaways from this episode. Number one, instead of making profit our number one priority in the beginning, we should focus on providing value to our target audience first. We want to focus on building credibility, relationships, and quality first before we focus on monetization. Number two, when we are determining the prices of our products and services, we should look at what our competitors are charging while also paying attention to the value our customers perceive our products or services to be worth. Number three, as we increase our value, consumers are willing to spend more on our products, even over a competitor with a cheaper price. Number four, when we prioritize quality and value over profit, monetization will probably come naturally. If you want to learn more about Evan or connect with him, you can find him on LinkedIn or visit his website at evanstewart.co. You can also listen to his Obsessed podcast for more insights from him. And you can find links to each of those sites in the blog for this episode at monetizationnation.com. Do you want to be a better digital monetizer? Then please follow these channels to receive free digital monetization content. Number one, you can subscribe to the free Monetization e-magazine at monetizationnation.com. Number two, you can subscribe to the Monetization Nation podcast and YouTube channel. And number three, please follow Monetization Nation on Instagram and Twitter. How do you provide high value and great service to your customers? Please join our private Monetization Nation Facebook group and share your insights with other digital monetizers. Thanks for joining me for this episode. I wish you success in your efforts to provide high value and great quality to your customers. Do you want to become a better digital monetizer? To receive great monetization stories and secrets, please go to monetizationnation.com and join free. And if you liked today's episode, please subscribe to the show and share it.